Conestee, welcome to the Candlelittales podcast. I am sitting down with my sister and we are about to...
pre-show. A new thing.
A slight new thing. Well, not really. Actually, you know what? It's a kind of an old thing. The Candlelittales podcast started off because Sorcha and I were driving up to Bullergan Park to do a show, and it was before we ever did a podcast, and we didn't know what the show was. We were talking about it. We were talking about, I think it was Balor and Lou, and I can't remember. Anyway, we were talking about the characters within the story, and Rue and Oisin were in the back, and they just kind of, at the end of the journey, went, that was really interesting. I'd listen to that as a podcast. Bing, light bulb moment. And so that's kind of where our chats, because we've realised that we need to talk these stories out in order to figure them out. And as we're teaching them on the storytelling course, after doing this for 6 years, figuring out mythology and putting it together and understanding the structure as well as the theme, as well as the kind of the beats of the story, but you really have to get into the mind of the characters within it by talking them out and discussing them and arguing points. So what we're going to do today is we're going to figure out how we're going to tell the next episode, and we're going to record it, because this is basically what we do with all our stories.
So instead of doing, it'll be probably a lot of similar stuff to the post show, and then we will talk about themes, and we will talk about characters, and we will talk about the stuff that we like, but this is how we make these stories. So we thought, you know what, why not just do this?
So for last summer we attempted this with our Battle of Entry, and we recorded
we recorded some of we recorded the phone calls and the audio was
terrible,
horrible. Because this was the thing, we used to do this in cars on the way to gigs, we used to do this at gigs, we used to do this over the phone. During lockdown we had to do this kind of only over the phone, and both of us are walk around people when we're on the phone, so it is not very conducive to recording, so we end up not really being able to get much of this recorded. So we're trying it here since we're Nushins, and obviously we're still wearing the same clothes because we each only have one jumper, as we've established that.
But this is the series. I mean, this is what people do. They record a number of episodes in one go.
That's right. Normal people do this. Proper people do this.
We are proper people. We're proper. I'm a proper person.
Which definition of proper? Because
I'm a person.
See? There you go.
I'm a people. Okay, so
I am people. Anyway,
this is where we argue about what we want to tell and how we want to tell it.
I suggest we stop describing what the process is and we start doing the process, because I'm a little bit tired and I'd like to get straight into this and stop talking about the thing.
So I've left it off with a shriek from the Morrigan and her calling a silence to descend on the battle drums.
And are they on the battlefield?
No, they're just in the hall.
So they're in their hall and they've declared war.
Yeah.
War were declared. So war were declared, and the Morrigan goes, ah!
And the kind of the rain of fire is sent down.
Did she do the rain of fire straight away, or did she not?
I just, the poetic license, I just had a little bit of rain turning into fire there at the end of the episode.
Just to be flavorful.
I mean, cool. That's a bit of an ironism thrown in there.
So rain turns into fire. So the Morrigan gets to do a lot of shit in this episode.
So what we need to clarify is we're going to do this over as a swap.
Yeah, we're doing a swap.
So you'll take the Fír Bolg's perspective and I'll take the Tuath de Dannan's.
Is that how we're doing it?
I don't know.
We can do it that way, yeah. So because we've got the Fír Bolg perspective, so they're starting in their holes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have they met Fintan yet?
No.
Okay, cool. Because this is kind of the first time he comes back into the story properly. Like, you can infer that he's around, but the first time he proper comes back is when he sees these guys are fucked. These guys are totally have them outgunned on every level, and Fintan McWoker turns up and helps the Fír Bolg with their battle preparations, which consists of digging a trench.
Essentially, he doesn't do a great job. It then becomes called the trench of the packs, because of the packs of wild dogs that come to feast on the dead bodies of the Fír Bolg that are piled high in the trench. Yeah.
But they basically, this is how they set up.
Great trench.
Well, hang on. Fuck off. Stop taking the piss out of trenches and winking at the camera, you prick. Come here. Right. Fucking ancient warfare.
Sell it to me.
They both take a trench. A of all. They both fucking
A
take
of
a
all.
trench.
Huh?
Second of all.
B of all. Don't mix
Number I. So, second of all,
Streamline.
the Tuath de Dannan have magic. It's not trenches, it's magic.
I'm leaning too close to the frame. Apparently I've been moving out of another frame and to make sure my vocal is heard clearly and my face is in frame. Oisin has used a stick to poke me into
broom.
place. A broom. Alright, well, for those of you watching on YouTube, you'll have just seen a hovering.
Oh my god. Anybody
Okay.
who, yeah, I know, you should just watch YouTube
Alright,
just for that bit.
I'm
Okay,
not
carry
really
on.
sure can we release this as anything that's going to be
Would you just still listen? We're doing it anyway. We're in it now, we're doing
in it now.
I'm tired and I'm not doing this again. So, first of all, everybody digs a trench.
Okay.
So stop being salty about the trenches.
On Moytura.
On Moytura.
Where exactly is Moytura?
Is this the one in Kong or is this the other one?
I think it's Kong.
This is the one in Kong. So there's one in Kong and there's one
In
somewhere else.
Donegal. Perhaps.
Yeah. So there's two battles of Moytura, but they're in two different places. This is two different Moyturas. Because Moytura means Moy is the plane
Or
of.
Merthevna.
Yeah, but Merthevna, Moytura, Merthevna, but the Moy is the plane of, and Tura is the post.
Posts.
So in both of these
Pillars.
places, because it's such a historic battle, it gets its name from the fact that the poets put pillars. My GoPro is dying. Camera's back.
Your battery's still dying though. But
Yeah,
we
no,
carry-
I mean obviously me as a human being
Wilting.
is about to. It's not. You know how this goes.
I do.
I get tired. I get cranky.
Very cranky.
I get murdery,
Very
and
murdery.
then I go to sleep.
Quite asleep, yeah. So before any of those happen,
Before
make
before
sure.
we progress past mild crankiness.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm talking about trenches, and I'm telling you why you need to be less dismissive about trenches to the Fír Bolg, because the Tuath de Dannan also dug a trench.
Okay.
But those fucking cheaters had a bunch of magic,
Right. Yeah.
which made them cheaters. But also, trenches are good strategy because it's a defensive position. That's what the trench is for.
Sure.
You dig the trench, you have your like you know the fucking, what's the fort on the Aran Islands Donegasa.
Donegas.
You know, coming up to Donegasa,
Yeah.
there's all the boulders on the hill,
That's fucking mental.
right? That's defensive. That's what they're talking about. There's a trench, there's a slope, there's like palisades and shit like that. There's like sticks and there's boulders and there's things that you'll break your shin off if you try and charge their position. It's creating a defensive position because they're not in building.
I get that. I'm just saying it didn't work out for them. Is all.
Like, it didn't work out because of the aforementioned dirty cheaters.
Magic.
So
I mean,
we've decided that the Fír Bolg are my guys and the Tuath de Dannan are your guys. So
I think so, yeah. Well,
dirty
because-
rotten cheaters.
Because as we'll be telling the series, you can kind of continue on with Bress. I'll tell the following episode Balor, and then we can, for the second battle of Moytura, we'll flip it. I'll be telling the Fomorian
Oh yeah,
perspective.
I go 2 a day for the second battle. Yeah, that makes sense.
That'll be kind of just a nice way so that it won't be one voice only for the
So if we right, so trenches. So we've covered trenches.
keep track, people. We're on the trenches. I mean,
No, hang on, we're not, because we're talking about the first move of the Tuath de Dannan is the Morrigan,
yes.
and so that's your is that better? Her POV or Fír Bolg POV? Because I could see an argument for both.
I could see. Well, why don't we use that as the perspective shift? So why don't you introduce Fintan McBogra, have him kind of go, look, you're kind of screwed, guys. Here's what you need to absolutely do. Then have the shriek, have the rain of fire, and have the 3 crows. And as we can have a little line that we repeat, the beating of her wings, or the beating of the crow's wings, or something like that, and then I'll repeat that line: the beating of the crow's wings flew the Morrigan into the air as the three sides of her face looked down at the Fír Bolg in despair, or something like that.
Okay, but less rhymey.
Did I rhyme?
You rhymed.
Sorry. I don't even know. Anyway.
Air despair.
didn't even notice I did.
You did it! You did a rhyme!
Sorry, I'm tired too.
I'm tired.
I like rhymes. Anyway.
I know! You always do them when you're tired, and then I'm like...
It's poetic.
It's not, it's cutesy.
So Crow, I think it's a nice little way to shift
Are
over.
we setting up this at... Do you want me to set up the plane of Moytura as well? Okay.
Yeah.
So he arrives at Moytura and meets them at Moytura.
Yeah.
And we also have the poets getting up on the pillars, which is, I don't know if I finished that thought, but it's where the poets get up on the pillars to
record,
so that they can record it, so that they can watch the battle from a safe place.
Which is it's kind of an amazing thing to put in there. Again, like, we don't have writing in this period. We don't have people who were able to really record it, so you have to literally watch everything, try and like live record and repeat said story afterwards and hope you recognise who the fuck is down there.
And like multiple poets and multiple posts. That's where the plane gets its name from, and that's why there's two of them, because they were like, well, we already did a Moytura plane over there, let's do a different Moytura here in Donegal. Just like more posts for more poets to look and record and see where everything is. So yeah, this is their like way of documenting before there were documents.
And that's exactly why we know that it's true and it happened, because both wouldn't lie, would they?
Stop being cheesy, I'll hit you.
So
I'll hit you with my pencil.
But I do think it's a bizarrely curious thing to have kind of going on twice, of these pillars put up to stick a lot of poets on. It's so bizarre.
Listen, the poets are always talking about how important the poets are.
Yeah.
In Irish mythology, every other story has a mention of how incredibly important the poets are.
It kind of feels like, alright guys, do you want to be important? I'm going to stick you on rocks in the middle of this.
No, hang on. Who's telling the fucking story? It's a poet who's going, hey, the moral of the story is poets are amazing.
We stood on rocks.
You heard it here first. Poets never lie. I'm telling you it's true. Poets. Like, there's a lot of pro-poets propaganda in Irish mythology, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They are their own fucking propaganda machine, and they're all over it, and I kind of love it.
Sure.
It's a terrible, terrible sin to kill a poet. Way worse than killing anybody else is killing a poet. Poets' curses, have you heard of them? Because they'll fuck you right up. Like, they're all just constantly doing it, and I find it really kind of on a meta level, like really just fucking funny. But yeah, so we get a beating of crow's wings. I'm doing that. I'm going to make it not rhyme, and then you have to repeat me. So then you'll go Morrigan POV. She'll fly over. Presumably the two a day also have a trench. But you can talk about the fact that they're dirty, rotten, cheating magic behind it. Well,
what they set up again is the Inkek, the pool of herbs, Gubnu, the smith, who basically just like
the forge,
magic all of his weapons back together, sharpen everything, fix everything, and then you've the dog there with his harp to play.
I'm pretty sure we made that up. We made that up to make B3.
Okay.
We made that up for the Dream of Ethlin.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have seen that it's Birog's song as well.
Put Birog's song. I prefer Birog. Let's leave Birog in there, because she's coming. She's going to come back in the Birth of Lugh. Yeah. I'll put it as Birog's song, giving the valor to the warriors. So, all that cool shit, aka dirty, rotten, cheating magic.
AKA. I mean, I like how we really all of a sudden. You know, we're always about black. It's not black, it's not white, it's all grey, it's all mixed. And now suddenly the Tuath de Dannan are the evil guys. How do we do that? You do that.
I'm doing that.
You're doing that.
I'm doing that because I am taking the Fír Bolg perspective. And from the Fír Bolg perspective, they're a bag of cunts.
Right. So
listen, they turned up, they burnt their ships, they refused to leave, and they said, "This is mine now, peasants."
I mean,
it's mine, isn't it? Yes, it is. It's mine.
Trouble with a capital T, Horselips.
Like,
my favourite song of theirs, and it just tells this story so well. If you don't know,
they just rock up and are like, mine.
And they're literally trouble. They are trouble, and they bring it with them.
So I'm taking the Fír Bolg perspective of them being arseholes, and that's fine for me to take as a storyteller in this particular episode, because I'm taking the Fír Bolg side.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the Tuath de Dannan trench. I'm talking about the Fír Bolg trench.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the preparations. I feel like that's kind of one section is the prep.
Yeah. Once we can leave them there for 3 days.
I think Sorry,
because
finish
it's the Morrigan. And now am I confusing the first battle and the second battle? Does she set up the shrieking?
No, she sets up the shrieking in the first battle, but when we did the show The Dream of Ethlin, which was about the second battle, we nicked all the cool stuff the Morrigan did out of the first battle.
Right.
In order to make the second battle more interesting.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying we made that up for The Dream of Ethlin, because we nicked a lot of stuff out of the first battle of Moy Tura.
Yeah, so I'll put that back.
The first battle of Moy Tura is kind of actually low-key a little bit cooler.
So what the Morrigan does, she basically depletes their energy, she gets them not able to sleep, full of fear, scorches the earth, and they're not able to sleep for 3 days and 3 nights before the battle even begins. So they're there for 3 days and 3 nights prepping. And the Fír Bolg aren't sleeping.
Yes, so the Fír Bolg are massively sleep deprived and under-resourced by the time they actually get to the fight. Whereas the Tuath de Dannan have infinity porridge, as previously mentioned. And they have their dirty cheating magic make better bath. They have a spa.
They have a whole
spa
magic
situation.
Spa, a porridge cauldron, a couple of weapons that are just like nuclear and
and then they have the remake weapons guy who just goes, okay, ting ting ting, weapon better. Govnu. So next section,
almost
I think
like the dwarfs.
We have the Shreng and Bress interlude.
Yeah.
Because I think that needs to be a scene.
It does, yeah.
Where they meet up. That's me if we're going just swappy.
Yeah, well, I'm taking the preparation from the Tuath de Dannan side, and the 3 days and 3 nights will end it on the Morrigan.
Cool, and then I'll go Shreng and Bress interlude, which is them having a scene, and that leads us into you can do the battle.
Smashy.
Because you like the smashy.
I do like the smashy. I don't even
what happened, like the main things that happen in the battle bit, because so there's some cool shit that happens if you do the battle, and you take particularly what happens to the kings, because Oki is killed, and Nuada is crippled.
Is Oki killed by Brett? I have a feeling he might be.
We'll have a little look for the details before we actually sit down and record, but Oki is killed.
The rough outline anyway. There's
and Nuada has his arm chopped off
by Shreng.
Yes,
it's Shreng that does
and
that.
Actually, will you drop in that the hawk, there's a great big hawk that comes in and carries his arm off?
Great,
because we can tie that back in, even though Miak regrows it and grows it back on. We can also have Miak just fucking making him.
Which ties into the Hawk of Achill story.
Exactly, which we're going to do at the end. So if you go battley, the Tuath de Dannan are able to renew themselves. The Fír Bolg aren't, and these are the two main things that happen. Then I can take it.
Well, also it's the Dagda coming.
Yeah, but that's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
So after Nuada's arm is taken off, he is no longer king of the Tuath de Dannan because he is not physically whole, and a person who's not physically whole can't be king. So Shreng still does a serious amount of damage to them. Then I think it makes sense for a swap, because what happens then shifts the tide of battle, because the Dagda takes over, who is a much more compassionate character. He is a much more open, he is a much more kind of heart-led person. He takes over, and what he sees is Shreng rallying the Fír Bolg.
I love his speech.
So do I. So this is where I think it makes sense if you do the battley bit, and then I take it, I shift gears into, and maybe you take it up to the Dagda, and then I shift gears into what the Dagda sees.
Right.
Because what the Dagda sees is this amazing moment of just
I always just
courage.
remember that one, the last line of Shreng's battle is, or his kind of rally is, let's give them our death.
Yeah.
I just love that. Like going out with blaze of glory, he doesn't want to be put under the yoke of anyone else. He's sick of that shit.
And it's fully like, right, cool, I will give you my death and I will make it hurt. So if you take it up to the Dagda, where the Dagda comes in and they're not the Tuath de Dannan are winning, but these guys will not quit. And I think this is the point as well where we talk about the Fort of the Dogs, because that's the place I think where Shreng makes his speech.
The Trench of the
The
Pax.
Trench of the Pax, sorry.
Yeah, it's close.
You know what I mean.
I was trying to pick that one apart for a second. I was like,
the Trench of Pax, because it's.
Will that be my bit or your bit?
That'll be my bit.
Okay.
Because that's me
Shreng
taking.
at the-
That's making their situation desperate and visceral and the horror of war kind of bit, where Shreng is like, right, so we're 1000% all gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make it hurt them as much as we possibly can. And that's what then motivates the Dagda, where we can come back to you with the Dagda, who's a big soppy.
Yeah, well, he basically says, okay, actually, steps out of reach or pulls back and calls a halt to things.
Yeah.
You get a choice to live now, and you can take a province. There's only enough of them to kind of fill a province.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of a. I always think it's an interesting move because it's a little bit of an exile, because they are exiled from Tara, which is what they didn't want.
Yeah.
And they are given Connacht, and
but then again,
Connacht is the poorest land for farming and all that kind of stuff.
Ultimately, under British rule, we were the saying was to hell or to Connacht.
That was Cromwell's bit, was to hell or to Connacht, was put the fuck them all to Connacht, because it is the least fertile land,
inhospitable, yeah,
and it's inhospitable. But there is a thing here where that's what the Fír Bolg choose.
Yeah, Shreng chooses
the Dagda
it.
is like, which bit do you want? And Shreng is like, I want this bit. I want the west.
Like, it's the most beautiful, but it's the hardest. It's the hardiest.
Yeah,
it's like it's hard to survive in, which is an interesting choice. And then we kind of don't, like, the Fír Bolg basically dissolve into, like, we don't hear them. Like,
we don't
calling.
hear about them as a separate group that much anymore. Yeah, kind of depends on what track you follow, because there are some who say that they kind of fade away, and there are some who say that they assimilate into the Tuath de Dannan and they kind of stop counting the divisions between them.
To run the overarching arc of this, or to keep an eye on it, if we start with the Fír Bolg, we're kind of taking their perspective of it. Ultimately, the highs and the lows are brought to us by, like, they've lost it all by the time Shreng is rallying the group. We want to be on their side, so, like, I guess I'm filtering through the actions of the Tuath de Dannan, but if we can get more in the heads of the Fír Bolg and the emotional landscape.
Yeah, because I think with the Tuath de Dannan, because as well with the Fír Bolg, Shreng is the consistent character.
Yeah.
And Shreng is the guy who doesn't want to fight.
Yeah.
So Shreng is the consistent guy, and he's the guy who also picks he's the guy who makes the speech. He's the guy who chooses at the end. Whereas with the Tuath de Dannan, you're jumping characters more. So you're going from the Morrigan into the battle. You're going to be with Bress, and you're going to be with Nuada, and then with the Dagda.
Yeah.
I think the Dagda is a really important person to land on.
Yeah.
Because the Dagda is he's the one who owns the Cauldron of Plenty. He's the one who's, he
has
he's the father god.
The harp as well, yeah.
And he's got the harp, but he's a father god with a lot of, like, very, very feminine qualities. Like the cauldron, even is like a cup or a cauldron, is very much a feminine symbol.
Yeah.
And so he's a very kind
of the fact that he has the his staff or his cudgel or club.
He's got a club that kills with one end and heals with the other end.
Yeah, which I love. I love that he's both. It's the yin and the yang.
Absolutely. But but that's what I mean. Like, the Dagda is a much more kind of integrated character. Like, as a god, he's got the masculine and the feminine, and he's I think much more empathetic than Nuada.
Yeah.
Because Nuada's always kind of cold. Even before the Silver Arm, I think he's always kind of a little bit of a cold character. Like, to me, like we were talking about in the last post show, like he's more that, like, removed, distant, cold, unempathetic.
Could have been alive for whatever number of years.
Yeah. Who knows how long he's been alive? But he's kind of lost his ability to see the point of view of the Fír Bolg.
Yeah.
Whereas Dagda is a different guy altogether. Dagda's always trying to make peace.
Is there something to be said?
Even though he's a great warrior.
That something kind of in Bress breaks a little bit in this battle, because by if he's forced to fight against Shreng, and like, is there something that happens to Bress with this that he doesn't like the Tuath de Dannan after this? Because he becomes such a shit king afterwards.
I don't think Bress's inability to be a king is willful.
Okay.
I think Bress's inability to be king is because people aren't good at everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really like the Bress story as just like halo effect gone wrong, where you assume that he's going to be brilliant at one thing because he's brilliant at something else and because he's beautiful.
Right.
And it's actually just Bress just has no fucking interest in kingship.
Yeah.
And like, he's not a malicious king, he's a neglectful king.
Because he becomes king after Nuada.
He becomes king, which is the next episode, which we'll talk about more. But in terms of teeing him up for that, I'd actually rather leave him looking like a hero in this.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because I think if we keep the shiny halo on Bress,
and he's just he's immaculate and he's perfect.
He's perfect and he's amazing and he somehow looks good covered in battle shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's
and
just
so
like he's got that like artistic smudge in his cheek, like they give all the women in Hollywood when they're in fight scenes. You know, the men are beat to shit and the women have like the one little bit on it, little smooch just on their cheek, just to highlight the cheekbones, just to make them look good. Like that's how Bress looks after the Battle of Moy Tura.
Cool. And idea cropped in my mind. So Fír Bolg, Tuath de Dannan perspective and narratively that'll work really nicely. We've two bits, two scenes where there will be dialogue. There's the Shreng and Bress scene, and then there's the Shreng
and Dagda,
Shreng and Dagda, exactly, yeah. So within our scenes we could voice those characters, and we could work with, maybe if you took Bress's voice or you gave him a voice and I took Shreng's voice, which I've kind of already done. I kind of did it, a bit, but we don't, we could even get Oisin or Ru to come in and do this. Is it overcomplicating it?
I think it's overcomplicating it. I don't really like doing the like overly voicey voice bit. Too much, yeah. No, I'm just wondering, like, within those two scenes. I think it's maybe, it might be a little bit too complicated.
We'll play.
Let's figure it out on the night.
Yeah,
okay. Figure it out on the night.
Okay.
Let's play with that one on the night, because I think we're better off not trying to pin it down now, because I'm pretty sure anything we pin down now will change our minds about it anyway. But roughly we've kind of a 7-beat thing here. We've my prep, we've your prep, we've the Shrine and Breath interlude, we've the battle, we've the speech, and we've the surrender,
final resolution,
which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Prep.
The 6 bits.
Prep, yeah. Well, is that not 7 with
prep, interlude, battle, prep, interlude, battle.
Shreng's final bit.
Shreng stand, resolution.
Yeah, sorry, that is 6.
That's 6. That's how you count to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A, 2, I.
Crystal
D.
Crystal clear.
Clear as mud.
As the narrative, like, it's funny because we like the kind of inciting incident was already kind of kicked off. Like, we know that's already been in the previous episode, and that's why all these stories are kind of linked so well. But like, we know it's a battle straight away. The suspense is between, and the tension is building up as like we know the Fír Bolg are basically going to die.
You're making me do a plot structure for the podcast.
No.
You're trying to make me do a plot structure.
But hang on, I'm also looking at finding out where Fintan goes, because
Fintan.
We can't.
Where does Fintan go? I don't remember.
I'm not. I think it'll be an artistic choice to link him back in. He's kind of there. He basically helped the Fír Bolg.
He's there on the side of the Fír Bolg. I think he stays in Connacht with them. I think he goes to Connacht with the Fír Bolg.
That makes sense.
Because by the time he's in the Trafungla Treacher story, best name, he's somewhere. Is he in Connacht or in Munster at that stage? Can't remember. Anyway, he's either Connacht or Munster. But I think Fintan just goes with the two a day. the sage who advised them. I really like your notebook, Aaron.
It's good, right? Yeah, it's my new notebook. It's really good.
You
for the
stole
audio.
my notebook for the last episode, but I was not letting you steal my notebook for this episode.
Fair enough.
It's mine.
Fair enough. I've a very solid bit of cardboard here.
Yeah.
It's making it lovely. Check it out. Huh?
It makes a nice noise.
Nice
Right.
writing soil.
I think that's enough out of me. 'Cause
And thank you very much for tuning in, listening in as we figure out how to tell the next story.
yes.
Thank you to our Patreon supporters who've gone to patreon.com/candlelittales.
And supported us. And thank you to everybody who is watching.
Yes, and listening.
And let us know what you thought of this, because this is kind of a different format from what we usually do.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. Let us know if you like this. Let us know if you'd like us to do more a bit like this. 'Cause we
More
can do
of
more of
this.
this. We did this. This
Yeah,
is good.
yeah.
And we will see you next time.
And you'll be tuning in to the first battle of Moy Tura in the next episode. Thanks, guys. So long.
Wait, wasn't it the last episode?